The glass hit the bar with a dull thud, sloshing the last amber drops of whiskey onto my fingertips. I didn't care. I stared at them, shaking slightly, stained with alcohol and betrayal, and felt nothing but hollow. It had only been 24 hours since I'd found out that my wife, Amber, the woman I loved for almost a decade, had been fucking my best friend Jake. Jake. My best man at our wedding. My beer and football on Sundays buddy. The guy who used to crash on our couch after poker night. And now he was crashing into my wife. I wasn't sure what had hurt worse, the betrayal or how fucking cliché it all was. The bar was mostly empty, just the clink of glass, some low jazz murmuring in the background, and my own toxic thoughts for company. The bartender, a middle-aged woman with a long ponytail and tired eyes, glanced at me now and then, probably wondering if I was going to start crying or puking. Maybe both. Another, she asked, already reaching for the bottle. Make it a double, I rasped, then turned toward the back of the room as the door creaked open. I wasn't looking for company, but what I saw snapped me upright. Haley, Jake's little sister. I hadn't seen her in over a year, last time was some family barbecue, I think. She'd been fresh out of college, half distracted by her phone and some moody guy she kept checking on. Now she was different. Her blonde hair was a little shorter, curled and falling around her shoulders in waves. She wore a leather jacket over a black dress that clung just tight enough to leave no mystery about the shape underneath. Not the girl I remembered. Not by a long shot. She spotted me, blinked in surprise, then smirked. Well, shit, she said, walking over. Didn't expect to see you here. Same, I muttered, suddenly conscious of the alcohol in my breath. She slid into the seat next to me without asking. The smell of vanilla and something darker, spiced maybe, followed her. She waved the bartender down and ordered a bourbon. Neat. Rough night? She asked, side-eyeing my empty glass. I laughed. It wasn't funny, but something about the irony of it all clawed its way out of my chest. You could say that, I said. Found out Amber's been cheating on me. Her eyebrow rose. Shit. With Jake. That got a full double take. Jake. She repeated. My Jake. The very one. She whistled low. Goddamn. There was a long silence, and for a moment, we just sat with it. Two people orbiting the same fucked up sun. Did you punch him? She asked eventually, lifting her glass. No, I said. Didn't even yell. I just left. She studied me for a beat. That's worse, you know. Silence is scarier than rage. Maybe, I said, but I don't think he deserved even that much. She sipped her bourbon, then turned toward me slightly, legs crossing in a way that made her dress ride up just an inch too far. I tried not to look. I really did. So, what now? She asked. I drink until this stops hurting, I muttered, swirling the last sip of whiskey. Well, she said, clinking her glass against mine. Guess I'll join you in that. We didn't talk about Jake after that. Not directly. But our conversation drifted, circling the edges of pain and anger like moths around a flame. She told me about her shitty breakup last year. I told her how long things had been bad between Amber and me, how I just hadn't wanted to admit it. One drink became 3, then 5. Then I was laughing at one of her stories, leaning closer, and the scent of her hair messed with my already intoxicated brain. She laughed too, and when she looked at me again, the room got still. You know, she said, her voice lower, softer, Jake's always hated that I liked you. I blinked. What? You heard me. Her gaze locked with mine, and something in her eyes, bold, daring, wounded, sparked a heat that had no business flaring to life tonight. My pulse quickened. We were too close now. I could feel her breath. This is a terrible idea, I whispered. Yeah, she said. But fuck it. She leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't soft. It was angry and raw and messy as hell. It tasted like bourbon and pain and a decade's worth of repressed emotion. I should have pulled away. Instead, I grabbed her waist, and she moaned, low and deep, against my lips. When she climbed onto my lap right there in the booth, I forgot every reason why this was a bad idea. All I could think about was how alive I felt again, for the first time in weeks. Maybe months. We didn't make it back to either of our apartments. The backseat of her car was all steam and skin and frantic hands. Her nails dug into my shoulders as I thrust into her, both of us chasing something neither of us could name. Her cries echoed off the windows, my name falling from her lips over and over like a prayer. And I was lost. In her body. In the moment. In the chaos of it all. When it was over, we just lay there, tangled in each other, the windows fogged, the car silent. Shit. I muttered. Yeah, she said. That was reckless? She nodded slowly. Yeah, but maybe that's exactly what we needed. We both stared at the ceiling for a long time, hearts still racing. And just like that, the night shifted. Something had started. And I knew there was no putting this particular genie back in the bottle. The morning after always has a certain silence to it. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that hums between two people who know they crossed a line but are pretending that they didn't. I woke up to sunlight filtering through the slats of her blinds, cutting across the room in perfect golden stripes. Haley was already up, perched on the edge of the bed, wrapped in nothing but one of her thin white sheets. Her bare back curved delicately, hair tousled in a way that made her look both like chaos and calm. She was scrolling through her phone, like she hadn't just fucked her brother's best friend in the backseat of her Civic the night before. Like she hadn't dragged me up to her apartment afterwards, wordless, and pulled me onto the bed like she was starving. Because we hadn't stopped with just the car. I remember her eyes, dark with hunger, when she straddled me again and whispered, "Don't hold back this time." I didn't. The sex was different. Rawer. Not just physical, emotional in the messiest way. She dug her nails into my chest like she needed to leave proof of her existence. I held her hips tighter than I should have. She bit my lip. I kissed her like I was trying to erase every memory of Amber. Now, in the cold clarity of morning, it was all still there, tangled in the sheets between us. She glanced over her shoulder and caught me watching her. Her expression didn't change. "You want coffee?" she asked. "Sure." She disappeared into the kitchen. I sat up, rubbing my face, the soreness in my body a leftover from hours of movement and mistakes. My shirt was halfway across the room. Her bra, black lace, delicate, hung off the floor lamp. I stared at it longer than I should have. A few minutes later, she came back with 2 mugs, handed me one, and crawled onto the bed, careful not to touch me. "So," she said. "That happened." "Yeah." A beat of silence passed. "You're not gonna freak out on me, right?" she asked, raising a brow. "Because I'm not built for emotional blowback." I gave a dry laugh. "Freak out?" "No. Pretty sure I used up all my emotional bandwidth when I walked in on Amber and Jake." She sipped her coffee. "Then we're good." I hesitated. Yeah. Last night it was a bad idea," she filled in. "But also kind of fucking perfect." I smirked. "Something like that." We sat in silence, coffee cooling between us, our bodies only a few inches apart, but worlds away now. She didn't try to cuddle. I didn't ask her to. "So, we good to just call it what it was?" she asked. "And what was it?" I met her eyes. "A one-time thing," she said evenly. "Revenge sex. Drunken, spontaneous, completely unrepeatable." "Right." I nodded, even though something about her saying it out loud stung a little. "No strings." "No strings," she repeated. But even as she said it, I could see the way her fingers tightened around her mug. Her eyes didn't meet mine again. I left about an hour later. She gave me a playful slap on the ass as I bent to pick up my jeans. "Text me if you need to blow off steam again," she said with a smirk. I told myself she was joking. For the next few days, I threw myself into work. I told myself I was fine. That what happened with Haley was a one-off, a heat-of-the-moment accident. But the truth is, I kept thinking about her. The way her skin felt under my hands. The way she didn't look away from me when we were coming undone together. The way she bit her lip after a smart-ass remark, like she was daring you to push her further. The text started 3 days later. She sent me a meme. "Stupid, funny," Jake related. I laughed out loud and texted back. Then another meme. Then a link to a song she said sounded like the kind of thing I'd hate but secretly love. She was right. Then, "So, you busy tonight?" That night, I was at her door. We didn't talk much. Just clothes on the floor, mouths crashing, hands roaming. We moved to her couch this time. Then the floor. She kept the lights on. I didn't ask why. I left before dawn. Again. The next time, she came to my place. She brought beer and a pizza. We ate it on the floor like teenagers. After the second bottle, she crawled into my lap and kissed me before I could ask her how her day was. "This isn't dating," she murmured against my mouth. "Just stress relief." "Totally," I said, though my hand was already brushing her thigh, and my brain was already screaming that I was lying. We fucked like we were trying to prove a point, but the point kept getting blurrier. One night, she fell asleep in my bed. I woke up to her hand draped over my chest. My heart thudded louder than I liked. I told myself not to read into it. Told myself I didn't need her. But I still ran my thumb along her bare shoulder. Still kissed her slow before I left for work. Still checked my phone 3 times that day, hoping she'd text first. We weren't dating. We weren't in love. We were just two broken people using each other to forget how broken we really were. No strings. Right? It happened on a Thursday. Late afternoon. One of those in-between hours where you're not quite done with the day but too tired to start anything new. Haley and I had just finished a lazy lunch, burgers, beers, and that flirty back and forth that had become our norm. She wore this cropped gray sweater that hung off one shoulder, paired with black jeans that hugged her hips like a damn love letter. Her hair was pulled into a high ponytail, a few wild strands framing her face, and more than once I had to catch myself from staring too long. We weren't holding hands. We weren't acting like a couple. But there was this vibe between us. Easy. Intimate. Like our bodies still remembered the night before, even if our mouths hadn't said a word about it. She was laughing, God, that laugh, and I was watching her instead of where we were walking when I heard it. Is that her voice? Amber. I turned, heart stuttering, and there she was, dressed in a tan trench coat and heels that made her legs look longer than I remembered. She had that same confident, curated look she always carried, like she belonged in some influencer's blog post about autumn street style. Her blonde hair was pulled into a low bun, and her makeup was subtle, professional. But her eyes, they betrayed her. She froze mid-step, a takeout coffee clutched in her hand. Haley noticed the shift in me immediately, followed my gaze, and let out a small, amused sound. Well, look who crawled out of her beige suburban fantasy. Amber stepped toward us. Hey, she said, her voice tight, brittle around the edges. Amber, I said, trying to sound neutral. It came out rougher than I intended. Her gaze shifted to Haley, who stood just a little closer to me than she needed to. Her arm brushed mine. Whether it was on purpose or not, I couldn't say. Amber's eyes narrowed slightly. Haley, didn't expect to see you two together. There it was. The smile. Not a real one. Just that practiced, social-laced one she used on people she didn't like but had to tolerate. The kind she wore at Jake's parties when his coworkers' wives got too loud after wine. Haley didn't miss a beat. Small world, huh? She said, with a smirk that could slice concrete. Guess some things run in the family. I coughed into my fist, badly disguising a laugh. Amber's eyes flicked to me, then back to Haley. She knew. Of course she did. We weren't exactly being subtle. I could see the jealousy blooming in her face like rot beneath the makeup. She tried to speak, failed, then regrouped. I didn't mean to interrupt. Just surprised is all. Surprised we're out in public? I asked. Not hiding in someone's bedroom? Her jaw tensed. Haley stepped in, voice syrupy sweet. We were just grabbing lunch. But you know how it is. One thing leads to another, and suddenly you're on dessert before the check even comes. Amber's face blanched. I felt a flicker of guilt. Not for what we were doing, but for the fact that it still affected me. Even then, with Haley on my arm and Amber wearing the regret clear as day. I felt that familiar, disgusting tug. She was still my wife. Or had been. And some part of me wanted her to look miserable every time she saw me. Wanted her to feel the sharp edge of everything she ruined. But watching her flinch? It didn't feel as good as I thought it would. Right, Amber said stiffly. Well, enjoy your, whatever this is. She walked off without waiting for a response, heels clicking against the sidewalk like gunshots. Haley turned to me. You okay? I nodded, too quickly. Yeah, I'm fine. She didn't believe me. I could tell by the way her smile dimmed just a little. I'm not mad you didn't warn me, she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. But that definitely wasn't nothing. I didn't answer right away. Just stared at the spot where Amber had disappeared. No, I said finally. It wasn't nothing. We kept walking, but something had shifted. Haley was quieter, and so was I. Not awkward, exactly, but thoughtful. That night, we didn't have sex. We laid on her couch, watched a movie, and didn't talk much. Her legs were in my lap. I ran my fingers along her calf absent-mindedly. She didn't ask me what I was thinking, and I didn't offer. But it was there. The ghost of Amber. The echo of what used to be. Later, as I was leaving, Haley stood in her doorway and said, "You're not over her." I turned. It's not that simple. I didn't say it was. Her voice was calm, not accusing. Just knowing. She stepped closer. Just don't use me to fix it, okay? I wanted to tell her I wasn't. That this thing between us was more than just distraction. That maybe, just maybe, it was starting to mean something. But instead, I said, no strings, remember? She nodded, but she didn't smile. And I walked away feeling like I just lied to both of us. Haley didn't even ask me if I wanted to go to her mom's birthday dinner. She told me, "You're coming," she said, tossing a pair of black jeans at me while half-naked in my apartment. "Dress like you have a backbone. You'll need it." "Thanks for the vote of confidence," I muttered, tugging them on. She adjusted her makeup in my bathroom mirror, bare back to me, skin still flushed from the morning's second round. "Jake's gonna be there." That made me pause mid-button. "You serious?" She met my eyes through the mirror, smirking. "Dead serious. This feels like a bad idea. Most things worth doing are." She didn't say it with malice. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about claiming space, hers, mine, ours, whatever the hell this thing between us had become. And maybe, just maybe, it was about seeing how Jake would handle the one thing he'd never been able to control, his little sister growing the fuck up. The dinner was at some upscale fusion spot downtown, the kind with dim lighting, artisanal cocktails, and menu items that used words like infusion and reduction. We were the last to arrive, fashionably late by Haley's design. When we walked in, I felt it immediately, the collective stiffening of shoulders, the sudden hush. Jake was already seated. He looked up, and the flicker in his eyes was lightning quick but unmistakable. Shock, disbelief, then fury neatly tucked behind a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Hey," he said, his voice flat. "Didn't know you two were hanging out." Haley beamed. "We're not. We're fucking." Her mom choked on her wine. I stared at the tablecloth. Jake's jaw tightened. "Real classy, Hales. You invited me. I brought a date. You mad you weren't included in the group text?" He looked at me, then back at her. "You're using him. We both know that." That did it. Something snapped behind Haley's eyes, something older than me, older than this whole mess. "Oh, fuck you, Jake," she said, low and venomous. "You don't get to play protective big brother now. Not after what you did." "I didn't." "Yes, you did. You fucked his wife. You broke your friendship. And you still think you're the one who gets to feel betrayed." Her voice was calm, but her hand was shaking. Jake stood up. "You think this is about you? You think dragging him here is making a point? You're using him like a pawn in some revenge game." I rose too. Slowly. "Hey," I said, voice low, controlled. "Don't talk about me like I'm not standing right here." Jake scoffed. "Man, I don't even know who the fuck you are anymore. I'm the guy who learned how to live without liars." His fist clenched. For a second, I thought he was going to swing. But then he just shook his head and turned to Haley. "He's just pissed, you know. This won't last. It's not real." Haley stepped closer, her voice almost a whisper now. "It's more real than anything you've ever given anyone." Jake didn't respond. Just looked at her, his baby sister, standing tall, standing angry, standing proud, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked small. The dinner was quiet after that. Tense. Awkward. Haley's mom asked polite questions between long sips of her overpriced Merlot. Her dad said nothing, just nodded and chewed and stared off at a corner of the room like he wanted to crawl into it. Jake left early. No goodbye. Just a tight-lipped mutter about work in the morning. When dessert came, Haley pushed her creme brulee around her plate without touching it. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, then shook her head. "No, but I will be." Later that night, back in her apartment, she climbed into bed without a word. No teasing, no flirting, just silence. I slid in next to her, unsure of my place in this moment. She turned to me, eyes shining with something she didn't have a name for yet. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For not letting him control the room." I reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "He doesn't get to anymore." She kissed me then, soft, slow, not hungry like before, but desperate in a different way. A need to be seen, to be wanted on her own terms. I kissed her back, fingers sliding up her spine, feeling the shiver ripple through her. We didn't have sex that night. We just held each other. And in the quiet dark, somewhere between her breath and mine, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just casual anymore. I was falling for her. Hard. And I wasn't sure she was ready to catch me. After the birthday dinner, something shifted between us. It wasn't a clean break or a blowout fight. It was quieter than that. Like a tightrope starting to fray strand by strand, unseen until it's too late. Haley didn't text as often. I didn't sleep over when I did visit. The fire between us didn't disappear. It just got harder to find the spark. We still had sex. Still tangled ourselves in sheets and curses and fingernails dragging across skin. But even then, there were pauses, moments where she'd drift off in the middle of a kiss, or I'd stare at her like I was waiting for something she wasn't offering. We never said the words, but we both felt it. This was starting to feel real. And real was terrifying. One night, I came over with Thai takeout and a bottle of wine. She didn't answer the door right away, and when she finally did, her face was puffy, eyes rimmed red. I didn't ask. She didn't offer. We ate in silence, the sound of her fork scraping against the box louder than anything on the TV. Midway through the movie, she said, "I think we should cool it for a while." My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice even. "Okay." "Why?" She hesitated. "Because I don't know what this is anymore. And I don't want it to turn into something it was never meant to be." I nodded, even though the words tasted like acid in my throat. "So, this was a mistake?" "No," she said quickly. "Not a mistake. Just maybe something that's run its course." She said it like it was logical, clean, but it felt like a knife. After she went to bed, I sat in her kitchen for 20 minutes just staring at the glass of wine I never touched. I thought about leaving a note, a text, a memory. Instead, I left nothing. And I didn't go back for a week. That's when Amber texted. At first, it was just a hey, no context. Just 3 letters that lit up my screen like a match held over a gas leak. Then, "I've been thinking about you." Then, "Can we talk?" I stared at that one the longest. And maybe if I'd gotten it a month earlier, before Haley, before the fallout, I would have replied. I would have given in. Just to know why. Just to hear the excuses, to see if her voice still had the power to pull at my chest. But now, I didn't even hesitate. I deleted the message. No reply. No second glance. Because whatever this mess with Haley was or wasn't, it was honest. And Amber had already taken enough from me. I started walking again after that, something to clear my head. I'd wander through neighborhoods at dusk, breathing in cold air and silence, trying to outrun memories I couldn't quite shake. Haley stayed quiet. I didn't push. Until one night, I opened my door and she was standing there. Hair wet. Eyes tired. Hands shoved into the sleeves of an oversized hoodie that may or may not have been mine. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside without saying a word. She walked past me and sat on the edge of my couch like she didn't know whether to curl into it or run. I sat across from her, hands clasped between my knees. "I don't know what I'm doing," she said finally. "With me? With anything?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, me neither." She looked up, tears clinging to her lashes. "I thought I could do casual. I wanted to. But then you met my family, and then you stood up to Jake, and I started thinking, maybe I wasn't just fucking you to prove a point." I let that hang in the air. Didn't interrupt. Didn't give her an out. "And that scared the shit out of me," she continued. "Because if this means something, then I can lose it. And I'm so fucking tired of losing things." Her voice cracked on the last word. I walked over, knelt in front of her, and took her hands in mine. "You're not a revenge story," I said softly. "You're not a distraction. You're not your brother's shadow. And you're not some consolation prize I settled for after Amber." Her fingers tightened around mine. "I don't know what we are," I admitted. "But I know it's not nothing." She exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. "Okay," she whispered. "We didn't kiss. We didn't sleep together that night. We just sat on the floor of my apartment, our backs against the couch, hands still intertwined. Breathing. Processing. Starting something that neither of us could quite name. But it was real. And for the first time since this whole thing began, that didn't scare me. The calm didn't last. For a while, things were good again, better than good, actually. Haley and I had stopped pretending what we had was casual. We weren't shouting it from rooftops, but we were real. Quietly. Intimately. No labels, no pressure, but real. We cooked dinner at her place most nights. She started leaving her toothbrush at mine. I caught myself smiling at texts from her in the middle of work meetings. She hummed when she was comfortable, little half-melodies with no rhythm, just noise she made while folding laundry or brushing her hair. It was stupid, but I caught myself listening for it. It felt like life was giving me something back. Like maybe the universe owed me this one good thing after how badly it had broken me before. But good things don't survive long when they grow from poison ground. It started with something small. Haley saw a photo. It was a picture from a friend's wedding years ago. One of those Facebook memories that pop up like a ghost uninvited. I'd been scrolling, saw it, and paused. Amber and me. She was laughing, head thrown back, that easy confidence in her posture. I was behind her, arms wrapped around her waist, mouth pressed against her shoulder. We looked happy, like the kind of couple people envy. Haley leaned over the back of the couch to see what I was looking at. The silence that followed was deafening. You still keep pictures of her? She asked, voice carefully neutral. It's Facebook, I said too quickly. It just showed up. I wasn't looking for it. She stepped around the couch and sat down, curling her legs under her. Did you ever delete your photos with her? I hesitated. No, I admitted. I mean, I don't go looking at them, but I never went on some purge. That felt fake. She didn't say anything for a long time, just nodded slowly. But something settled over us. Cold, heavy, and it didn't go away. That night, the sex was different. She kissed me like she was trying to beat the image out of my memory, like she wanted to win. I kissed her back like I owed her proof. The next day, I didn't hear from her. And the next, when I finally texted, all I got back was, I need space. I stared at that message for a long time. At first, I gave it to her. I told myself she needed time, that we'd talk, sort it out, that this was just her way of processing. Then, 3 days later, I got drunk and did the one thing I promised myself I never would again. I checked Amber's Instagram. She'd posted a photo of a cocktail, no caption, just a blurry background that looked like a rooftop bar. And I hated that I still recognized the place. The way her hand rested on the glass. The way she always angled her face toward the light. I stared at it for all of 2 seconds. Then I closed the app, opened Haley's contact, and started typing. I miss you. I didn't hit send. I sat there with my thumb hovering over the screen until my chest hurt. The next morning, I found Haley waiting by my car. She looked tired. No makeup. Hair in a messy bun. A hoodie 2 sizes too big. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. And she looked furious. You still love her, she said. No preamble. No hello. No, I said. Too fast. Too forceful. Yes, you do, she insisted. You say you don't, but you're still wrapped up in it. You keep her pictures, you still check her socials. I didn't. You did, she snapped. And even if you didn't mean to, it means you're not here with me. Not really. Not all the way. My hands balled into fists at my sides. Are you serious right now? You think I'm not present? You think I've just been using you to get over her? Sometimes, she said. Yeah, I do. That stung. More than I expected. I took a breath, tried to keep my voice calm. I didn't ask for this thing with you to happen. I didn't plan it. But it did. And I didn't run from it. I leaned into it. I wanted this to be real. Wanted, she repeated. Still want, I corrected. She crossed her arms. Then why does it feel like every time I get close, you pull away? My voice cracked before I could stop it. Because I'm scared, Haley. Scared that I'm just someone else you'll outgrow. That the second I fall all the way in, you'll realize you never meant to catch me. The silence between us thickened. Then she said, quieter now, do you really think I'd do that? I don't know, I whispered. But I'm still unlearning how it felt when someone I trusted ripped my fucking heart out. I'm trying. Tears welled up in her eyes. So am I. We stood there, barely breathing, hearts pounding in sync, but out of rhythm. Then she turned. I need more time, she said, without looking back. And she walked away. The first real crack in what we'd built. And I wasn't sure if it would heal or split wide open. I hadn't seen or heard from Haley in almost a week. 7 days of silence. 7 days of reliving that parking lot argument in my head, over and over. Picking it apart like a scab I couldn't stop touching. Trying to figure out when this thing between us stopped being simple and started meaning everything. I didn't expect to see her again at that point. I figured she was gone. Just one more person who'd seen the mess I'd become and decided it wasn't worth the cleanup. But then I ran into Megan, Haley's best friend. Total accident. Grocery store, middle of the frozen pizza aisle. I had earbuds in, hadn't shaved in 3 days, looked like hell. She almost didn't recognize me. Oh shit, she said, pulling out her AirPods. You look like you've been hit by a truck. Just life, I muttered. And it backed over me a couple times. She tilted her head. You two still not talking? Guess not. She paused. Then, with this weird look on her face, she said, has she told you about Jake? I blinked. What? Megan let out a soft breath. Look, I'm not trying to stir shit, okay? But if you're serious about her, if you care about her, you should know. Know what? That he made her feel invisible. Her whole life. I didn't say anything. Just stood there while the freezer air fogged over the glass between us. Megan continued. Growing up, Jake was the golden boy. Captain of everything. Their parents adored him. Haley? She was the sidekick. The kid's sister. The afterthought. Her whole childhood was, isn't your brother amazing? And don't be so dramatic, Haley. Even when she got straight A's, even when she was hurting, it was always about him. I tried to picture it. Haley as a kid, tugging at sleeves for attention she never got. Sitting in the shadow of a brother who never noticed he cast one. She didn't even tell them when her ex cheated, Megan said. You know why? Because Jake liked the guy. And she didn't want to cause tension. My stomach turned. And when Jake found out about you too, he didn't get mad because he thought you were taking advantage. He got mad because, for the first time, Haley had something he didn't. I felt something inside me twist. Sharp. Guilt. Maybe. Or regret for every time I treated her like she was just part of someone else's story. Megan looked me dead in the eyes. She spent her whole damn life trying to be seen. Don't be the guy who keeps making her invisible. I stood there long after she walked away. The store faded around me, just white noise and flickering fluorescent lights, and all I could think about was Haley. Not just the woman I'd been sleeping with, but the girl behind her. The girl who learned early on that love wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was silent, selective, conditional, and suddenly everything made sense. The smirk she wore like armor, the way she never let people get too close, the sex that burned so hot it almost felt like anger. She wasn't using me to get over her brother. She was using herself to try and feel worthy, to be chosen, wanted, seen. And I hadn't told her that she already was. I drove straight to her place. Didn't text. Didn't call. I just showed up, heart in my throat, and that quiet kind of desperation people mistake for calm. She didn't answer the buzzer, but her lights were on. I sat in my car for a while, staring at the building, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing anchoring me to this moment. Then I opened the glove compartment and pulled out the photo. It was from the night we crashed that little dive bar in the city. The night with the karaoke and the greasy fries and that terrible rendition of Mr. Brightside she screamed into the mic like it owed her money. In the photo, we were both mid-laugh. She was sitting in my lap, beer bottle in hand, head thrown back. And I was looking at her, not the camera. Just her. I wrote nothing on the back. Just slid it into an envelope and left it under her door. Then I walked away. Not to guilt her. Not to beg. Just to show her, maybe for the first time, that someone saw her for exactly who she was, and didn't want to change a thing. I didn't expect her to call. I didn't expect anything, really. That night I left the photo under her door. I told myself it was enough, that I wasn't going to chase her, or beg her to come back. I just wanted her to know someone had seen her, really seen her, even if it was too late to mean anything. And then, 3 days later, my phone rang. Her name lit up the screen like a flare in the dark. I answered without hesitation. Hey. There was silence on the line at first. Just breathing. Hesitant. Soft. Then, finally, you remembered that night. Of course I did. You weren't even drunk. No, I said. But I was already a little gone. She didn't laugh. But I heard her exhale, the kind that sounds more like a release than a breath. I don't know what you expect me to say, she admitted. I'm still pissed. I'm still confused. But that picture. I wasn't asking for anything, I cut in. I just wanted you to know. That night wasn't about Amber. It wasn't about revenge. It was us. And I'd forgotten how real that felt until I saw the photo again. A long pause. Then she said, Can we talk? In person. We met at the park near her place. Late afternoon. The sky was turning that warm shade of burnt orange that makes everything feel nostalgic even while it's still happening. She wore a hoodie and jeans, her hair in a messy bun, no makeup. And she looked beautiful, not in a way that begged to be noticed. In the way you notice without even trying. We sat on a bench, side by side. Close, but not touching. I've been trying to figure out what the hell this thing between us is, she said after a while. And I keep coming back to this one moment. That night Jake blew up at the dinner. I watched you go toe-to-toe with him. No fear. No bullshit. And all I could think was, holy shit, someone's finally standing up for me. I swallowed hard. You have this way of making me feel like I'm more than what people expect, she continued. More than Jake's little sister. More than someone to be fucked and forgotten. You make me feel seen. She looked at me then. Full on. No defenses. And that's scary as hell. I get it, I said. You're not the only one who's been scared. She nodded. I know. I saw it in your face when I brought up Amber. I saw you shut down. And I felt it like a slap. I clenched my jaw. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was just ashamed. Of how much damage I let her do to me. Of how much I still carry, even now. I get that too, she said quietly. We're both still bleeding from people who never learned how to hold a damn knife. The wind picked up, rustling the trees above us. For a minute, we just listened to it. Then I pulled something from my pocket. A key. I don't know what this means. I don't know what we are, what we're calling it, or how the hell we're going to make it work. But this is yours. If you want it. She stared at it, then at me. I'm not asking for all of you, I said. Not yet. I'm just asking you to let me try. To let us try. No games. No power plays. Just two broken people seeing what's left to build. She reached out, took the key, and closed her fingers around it. I'm not perfect, she said. Good, I replied. I'm allergic to perfect. A small smile curled her lips. It wasn't triumphant. It wasn't flirtatious. It was real. We sat there until the sun dipped behind the trees, casting shadows long and quiet across the grass. And in that silence, I realized something. We hadn't fixed everything. We hadn't healed every wound. But we were facing forward now. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. It was raining when she showed up. Not the soft, cinematic kind of rain. The kind that hits the pavement in sharp, staccato bursts. Wind-driven. Cold. The kind of weather that makes everything feel heavier than it already is. I had just gotten back from work. Tossed my keys on the table. My place smelled like takeout and wet asphalt. I hadn't even taken off my shoes when the knock came. 3 sharp raps. I opened the door, and there she was. Amber. Soaked, breathless, like she'd just run through the storm, or maybe through the last 6 months of wreckage between us. She looked good. Of course she did. Her hair was pulled back, strands clinging to her cheeks. A tan coat cinched at the waist, mascara trailing faintly beneath her eyes. Her perfume hit me before her words did. Can we talk? She asked, voice barely above the rain. I didn't move. What could we possibly have left to talk about? She swallowed. Please. I stepped aside, but only just enough. She crossed the threshold slowly, cautiously, like a ghost returning to haunt the scene of its own death. Inside, she looked around like the place was unfamiliar. It wasn't. She helped pick the couch, hated the wall color, once made fun of the lamp I kept by the window. Now she couldn't even meet my eyes. I heard you've been seeing Haley, she said. I didn't answer, just crossed my arms and waited. She's Jake's sister. No shit. That got a reaction, the little flinch she always made when I dropped sarcasm like a knife. She used to say I was too gentle for my own good. Apparently, not anymore. She looked down, hands fiddling with her sleeves. I've made a lot of mistakes. No, I said flatly. You made one. Over and over. And you lied about it. Over and over. Her jaw tensed. I didn't come here to fight. Then why are you here? She looked up at me then, and for the first time in a long time, I saw the vulnerability. Not the fake kind. Not the one that used to get her out of arguments or into someone else's bed. This was real. I miss you, she said. It landed like a punch, but it didn't cut like it used to. I stayed quiet. I miss us, she added. What we were before everything fell apart. Before I cheated, I finished for her. She winced. I fucked up, she said. And I know it doesn't mean much now, but I didn't think I'd lose you for good. I thought. I don't know what I thought. That I'd wait. I asked. That I'd let you back in when it was convenient? No, she said quickly. I just thought, maybe, when the dust settled, you'd still see me. I looked at her for a long moment. I did, I said. I saw you. I saw the real you. And that's exactly why I walked away. Her lip trembled. I still love you. And once, those words would have melted every defense I had. No? They felt like an old song I'd grown tired of. I don't, I said. She blinked. What? I don't love you anymore, Amber. She stared at me like she didn't understand the words. Like I was speaking a language she hadn't learned yet. I cared. God, I cared. For so long. Even after everything, I held on to the pieces hoping they'd come back together. But they didn't. They shattered. And I found something real in the wreckage. Something better. She didn't ask who. She already knew. Haley, she said quietly. Yeah, she's younger than me. Impulsive. Reckless. And she chooses me. I snapped. Not when it's easy. Not when it's convenient. Even when she's scared out of her mind, she shows up. You never did that. Amber looked away, blinking fast. So that's it. That's it. I opened the door. She didn't move at first. Just stood there, as if hoping I'd change my mind at the last second. But I didn't. And finally, she walked out into the rain. Didn't look back. Didn't ask for another word. Just disappeared into the storm she helped create. And me? I closed the door. Locked it. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel the urge to open it again. The bar hadn't changed. Same scratched-up wooden booths. Same sticky floor. Same dim, amber lighting that tried too hard to be moody. Same old jukebox in the corner, still loaded with songs about heartbreak and bad decisions. I hadn't been back since that night, the night Amber broke me. The night I met Haley at the edge of a whiskey glass and a fuck-up life. The night everything started falling apart so it could fall together again. I sat in the same booth, ordered the same drink. I wasn't expecting anything. I didn't come here to brood or reflect. I just needed a moment, a breath, a pause between the life I used to have and the one I was starting to believe I could actually build. And then I felt it, that shift in the air. I looked up. Haley. She was standing near the bar, scanning the room, fingers tangled in the strap of her bag like she didn't trust herself to stay or leave. She saw me and smiled. Not a smirk, not a dare, not a shield, just her. She walked over slowly, the way you do when you're afraid of what might happen, but more afraid of never knowing. "You always come here when life implodes?" she asked. I chuckled. "Only when it's about to get better." She slid into the booth across from me. "I saw Amber," she said. "She came by my place." My jaw tightened. What did she want? Closure. Control. One last dig, maybe. And Haley shrugged. I told her she could keep the past. I've got something better. I didn't say anything. Just looked at her. Really looked at her. She wasn't dressed to impress. No lipstick. No heels. Just jeans, a soft black tee, and that damn leather jacket I loved way more than I should. "What are we doing?" I asked, finally. "Are we still lying to ourselves?" She shook her head slowly. "No more lies. I was a mess when you met me. So was I. I used you at first. I used you back. We sat in that honesty. No shame. No apologies. Just truth. I didn't mean to fall for you," I said. "I didn't mean to catch you," she replied. "But you did." She reached across the table and took my hand. "I want to try," she said. "For real. No revenge. No rebound. Just you and me. Whatever that looks like." I swallowed hard. "Even if we fuck it up?" "We will fuck it up," she said, smiling. "But at least we'll do it together." We finished our drinks in silence, fingers laced. When we stood to leave, she leaned in and kissed me, slow, deliberate, full of every word we hadn't said until now. As we walked out into the night, I saw her. Amber, sitting alone at the other end of the bar. She watched us go. Her expression unreadable. Maybe regret. Maybe recognition. Maybe nothing at all. But I didn't stop. Didn't flinch. Haley's hand was in mine. And this time, I didn't look back.